Welcome back to Algebra 1 Honors. This is lesson 5-12, and now we're going to apply all that factoring that you've learned how to do in order to solve an equation. And it's actually a very simple next step. So once you've been able to factor something, and this is much harder than any one we would have given you to factor. But let's say you factored it and you ended up with y plus 5 times y minus 7 times y minus 3 times y, and we're now going to say equal to 0. So we're going to solve this equation. Well, this equation, think about it. If I have a whole bunch of things multiplied together, okay, imagine you're holding them in your hands, right? I've got this times this times this times this, and I'm multiplying them all together. Well, if my answer is 0, what do you know about those things that I was multiplying together? Well, you know that at least one of them must have had a value of 0. Because in order to get a product or an answer of 0 when you're multiplying, and only multiplying things together, one of those numbers had to have a value of 0. So this is we've got a number, this is going to be a value, some number. This is going to be some number, this is going to be some number, and that's going to be some number. So I've got 4 things multiplied together here. This times this times this times this. And if any one of them is 0, my answer is going to be 0. So my solutions here, my solution set is going to be to find what makes this value 0, that expression equal to 0. What do I add to positive 5 to get 0? Well, I add negative 5. So if y is negative 5 plus 5 gives me a 0 here. And then I don't have to do any more calculations because I could plug the negative 5 in here, plug it in here, plug it in here, but it really doesn't matter. Because if this one is 0 times whatever else is going to be there, the answer is going to be 0. Okay, then I look at this one. Y minus 7. What makes y minus 7 equal to 0? Well, if I put in a 7, 7 minus 7 gives me a 0. That means this number, this value is 0. And it doesn't matter what the others are. Then I look at this one. What minus 3 gives me 0? Well, 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. And the last one is just plain old y. What gives it a value of 0? 0. So I have 4 different acceptable answers to this problem because 4 different values here make one of my factors 0 at any given time. Okay? Now, most of your problems are not going to be quite that simple. They're going to require you to do the factoring first and then figure out how to make each of the factors have a value of 0. So here we're going to have to factor first. So we want a number that we multiply together to get negative 21, right? Because there's a 1 here and a minus 21. And when we add together, we want a positive 4. Well, that's going to be positive 7 times negative 3. Because positive 7 plus negative 3 gives me a positive 4. So this is going to factor into p minus 3 times p plus 7 and is equal to 0. Now, what makes this factor equal to 0? What do I plug in for p so that p minus 3 equals 0? Well, it's 3. So my answer there is 3. Then I look at my next factor. What do I put in for p to make p plus 7 equal to 0? Negative 7, because negative 7 plus positive 7 gives me 0. Those are my 2 answers. Let's look at this one over here. Now this one over here, I think they're getting cagey on you. Right? You notice over there we always had our equations equal to 0. So we need to move this negative 17h over to the other side. So we're going to do that first. And then we'll have 6h squared plus 17h plus 12 equals 0. Now I have to factor. Okay, I'm looking for two numbers so that when I multiply them together, 6 times positive 12, I get positive 72. And when I add them together, I want to get positive 17. Well, that's easy enough to see. 8 times 9, positive 8 times positive 9, and positive 8 plus positive 9. Okay? So I take my two numbers, and again, because my coefficient isn't 1 this time, I have to remember to take my 8 and my 9, put them over my coefficient of 6, right, reduce, and I get, let's see, 4/3 here, and 3/2 here, and then I push them over, and I get that this factors here into 3 plus 4h times 2 plus 3h. Okay? And then that's equal to 0. Now, if you don't remember special factoring, you need to go back and practice your factoring. Because being able to do all these problems depends on being able to factor. All right, now, these two are a little bit harder. We have to say, okay, let's come down here. 3 plus 4h equal to 0. Well, that's an equation I can solve because I want this factor to be 0. So I subtract 3 from both sides. I get 4h equals negative 3. Divide by 4. And I get h equals negative 3/4. That's one of my answers. My other is to take this factor and set it equal to 0. 2 plus 3h equals 0. Subtract 2 from both sides. 3h equals negative 2. Divide by 3 on both sides. And our other answer is h is equal to negative 2/3. So we have two answers here. Our two answers are negative 3/4 and negative 2/3. Okay? Now let's do the last one, number 4 here. And in fact, let me move number 4 over here where we can see it better. Move number 4 up here. Red equation there. We've got u to the 5th minus 13u to the 3rd plus 36 u equal to 0. So we have the equal 0 part already. Now we have to factor. Well, again, we need to look and see if there's anything common to all of our terms that we can factor out first, our greatest common factor. And there is. We can take a u out. And that gives us u to the 4th minus 13u squared plus 36. Okay? Now, when we look at this, we can factor this into u squared minus 9 times u squared minus 4, right? Because that'll give us u to the 4th minus 9u squared minus 4u squared is minus 13u squared plus 36. But now we're not done. These are perfect squares here. So the difference of two perfect squares. So we have to say u times u minus 3 times u plus 3. And this one is u minus 2 times u plus 2. Now, it looks like we're going to have lots of answers to this particular equation because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things, 5 different factors, all multiplied together. So unless some of these factors are the same, are repeats, we're going to have 5 different answers. What makes u equal to 0? 0. What makes this one, u minus 3, equal to 0? Well, when u is 3. How about when u plus 3? u plus 3, what do you add to 3 to get 0? Negative 3. This one, u minus 2. Well, 2 minus 2 gives us 0. And what do you add to 2 to get 0? Negative 2. So a very innocent looking problem has 5 different answers. But the whole key to this lesson, the whole thing they're trying to teach you, is collect all of your terms, all of your monomials on one side. Okay? However many of them there are. Set it equal to 0. Then factor. Okay? And once you've got your factors, once you've got only multiplies for each one of those factors, set each one of those factors to 0, and you have your answers.